Good morning and welcome to another Avian Home Adventures. Today we are going to test your knowledge. So for the past 4 or 5 weeks we have been introducing you to our birds and telling you all about them. So today we are going to test your knowledge on native birds, and we are going to play some calls and I'll give you some hints. And so participation is definitely encouraged. Put your guesses in the comments. And then we have 5 different birds to test you on. And after we play the sounds and give you some hints, then we will show you which bird it belongs to. So this is a fun game for you to be able to identify birds in your own backyard. If you're out hiking a lot right now, hopefully you're getting outside. This is a good chance for you to brush up on your native bird calls and be able to identify them when you are out in the wild. Okay, so we will play the call of the first bird. Now, all of these birds do have lots of different calls that they make. They have mating calls, they have duet calls with their mate and or their young. They have food calls, they have alarm calls, they have all different kinds of calls, but what we decided to do was play kind of their most common vocalizations that you might hear when you are birding. So let's play the first one. So make your guesses below. Some hints: this is a diurnal species. It is a very common diurnal species that we have in our area. They get their name, they are named after a part of their body. Are there any guesses so far?
Is it an owl?
It is not an owl, so it is a diurnal, which means daytime. So that eliminates all of the owl species.
Ooh, someone guessed red-tailed hawk.
Ah, red-tailed hawk. So Hollywood does a really good job of playing that call, that scream, when they show a bald eagle. Not a bald eagle at all. It is indeed a red-tailed hawk. So we will introduce you to, I think you've already met Cisco in one of our Avian Home Adventures, but we'll throw him a piece of his food and watch him catch it. Woo! He's really good at that. You can also see, if you come in here a little bit further, you can see that enrichment that we give them. He has lots of torn up enrichment. He loves things like paper balls and paper chains. We give them tissue paper flowers, and they love to pick it up in their feet and then tear it apart with their beak. So yes, that call was indeed from one of our red-tailed hawks.
A lot of people got it.
Good, awesome. All right, the next one. Moving right along. So the next one that we will play, we'll play the call, and then we will get him out. We thought maybe playing these calls right outside of the birds' enclosures that they might call back. I don't think he's interested in calling back. I think he's more interested in the food that I have for him. So some hints. This is another diurnal species. It is not a hawk. This is a small bird. They eat a lot of insects. They do something called hover hunting, where they fly straight up in the air and they flap their wings like this, and then they'll dive down and grab onto those insects.
Jim, we have a couple guesses. Screech owl?
Nope, diurnal again, so daytime.
Falcon?
It is a type of falcon, so think native and small.
Kestrel?
It is a kestrel! I will go grab our kestrel friend. See if he's interested in coming out.
So our birds here do have the option to say no, and that's totally fine. There are a lot of things that are happening in their world, like they just probably ended migration, it's probably breeding season.
He is doing some breeding motions right now.
He's got other things on his mind.
He's saying, I don't know about this. Here, let me have the camera. I'll bring it in here and show you a close-up of him. So here is our kestrel, and he is a male. So this is one of the few species of raptors where the male and female do have different colors. So you can see those beautiful slate blue wings. The females actually have brown wings. So let me see if he's interested in this worm. There we go. So you can hear some of those vocalizations from him. He's saying, I'm going to take my food and I'm going to go on this side. So you guys were correct. He is an American kestrel. These guys are big hunters in open fields since they do eat a lot of bugs. They like to flush the bugs out of those big tall grasses and then do that hover hunting and dive down and catch those insects right out of the air. So we'll let him enjoy the rest of his worm while making his beautiful vocalizations. Okay. Moving right along. We will go to the next friend. Sorry, we have to go from one house to the other. Okay. We'll get set up and play the call from our next bird. This one we're going to play two different calls because we liked both of them and they are both calls that you might hear, especially this time of year. So the first one is going to be, that's not it. She's cheating. She's the next bird. Okay. So the first one is going to be a single of this bird. And then the second one will be a duet, since oftentimes right now especially, you'll hear these birds together. All right, so now we are in the nocturnal world. So nighttime. Think nighttime, think very common again. You're next. Any guesses?
Type of owl?
It is a type of owl. Think very common type of owl.
Someone says, who cooks for you?
Who cooks for you? What type of owl is that?
Barred owl?
Barred owl. Very nice. All right, so coming out is one of our barred owls. This is Dahlia. She is enjoying some chicken today. So yes, a barred owl is a very, very common type of owl that we have in our area. They are also, they have really adapted well to living around people. They are opportunistic feeders, which means that they'll eat just about anything. They'll eat mice, they'll eat squirrels, they'll eat other birds, they'll eat fish, they'll eat frogs, they'll eat salamanders. They will eat just about anything. She's a very very hungry, little barred owl. And yes, their call is often said to sound like they're saying, "Who cooks for you? Who cooks for you all?" But they have lots of different vocalizations that they make depending on what's going on.
Someone said the video of the duet sounds like monkeys.
Monkeys, absolutely. We often get calls and emails saying, "It sounds like I have a troop of monkeys in my backyard. What do I have?" Sometimes people think they sound a little bit like crows. They have a wide range of calls. That's why we wanted to play both of them for you. Especially when they have young in their nests, or if their young have fledged and they're making calls back and forth, they can get pretty crazy sounding. Just checking out the camera. She's very interested in you guys. All right. Go back home. She too has lots of enrichment in her house. She prefers paper plates stacked on top of each other with things in between so that she can forage for it. All right, now we're gonna go to the loud one. We probably won't even need our recording because she was very loud. She's probably gonna start screaming because we're getting close. All right, so let's play the call and she might start calling along with it. So we're back to a diurnal species, daytime. Of these birds that we've played calls for, these types of birds are very, very vocal. As you could see when we were trying to do the other bird, she decided that she wanted to scream and call. They are very, very vocal.
It's a bald eagle?
It's not a bald eagle. That's a good guess. Because bald eagles do not sound like what you think eagles sound like. They have a really high-pitched, almost scream, but this is not a bald eagle.
Some people have guessed it. Red-shouldered hawk.
Red-shouldered hawk.
Ooh, we got a Cooper's hawk.
A Cooper's hawk, that's a good guess. The difference between hawks can be kind of hard to tell. We have a couple good recommendations for websites that you can go to brush up on your native bird calls. We have Cornell has some really good sites. There's an All About Birds. That's a really good website to go to. And then Audubon. So all three of those have different recordings of our native raptors. And so you can brush up on those, the ones that we haven't played today. I don't think so. Bring it in a little bit closer. She's might get a little offended with the camera getting close. So yes, this is the red-shouldered hawk. It's a little bit hard to tell, but she does have red shoulders. Now we say red shoulders, but it's actually not their shoulders that are red. It's more like their wrist. But either way, the red-shouldered hawk. And she too is going to eat some chicken. She got a little bit puffy. When two people come into one of our birds' homes, sometimes they can get a little alarmed because sometimes that means that they are going to get a health check. And so the fact that Carol and I are both in here has put her a little bit on alarm, which is why her feathers are standing up the way that they are. All right, we have one more, so we will head over. If you guys have questions, please put them in the comments and we can answer them while we're transferring from one bird to the other.
Someone says they know TV shows have used red-tailed calls instead of eagle calls.
Yeah. Yeah, if you look up what a bald eagle sounds like, it sounds more like a gull or a water bird. And really a lot of water birds, osprey, bald eagles, gulls, have really, really high-pitched calls, and that is so that the call transfers over the water so that they can hear each other. And so when you look at a bald eagle and then you hear their call, they don't really seem like they go together. So again, Hollywood has done a really good job of showing a bald eagle and then playing a red-tailed hawk call because it sounds cooler. It's that high-pitched scream. So yes, don't believe everything you see on TV. Okay, our last bird will come in here. Don't cheat. Don't let him see. All right, so we'll play the call. So, nocturnal, think larger, think living in big wooded areas, not really too big on urban areas. They like more rural and they like really wooded. Big, giant yellow eyes.
Someone guessed GTO or GHO?
GHOW, great horned owl. It is indeed. Let me pop in here and see if our great horn wants to come out and play. And he's probably going to show you a different call. That little chittering noise that he makes. That's more of like a food begging noise. So yes, great horned owl, the largest of the owls that we have in our area, and they really do prefer to be in larger wooded areas. We are here in the Lotta Nature Preserve, and we are on about 200 acres. The preserve is about 200 acres, and we have a few resident great horned owls that live here. He's showing off. It's really cool to see when he eats. He closes his nictitating membrane, or his third eyelid. So that's what that light blue eyelid is that closes. All of these birds have one of those. It's a way to keep their eyes protected. So you'll notice he closes it whenever he eats. If he were eating whole food and he were having to tear it up, that could cause blood and guts and hair and all kinds of things to be flying around and possibly go into their eye. And they cannot afford to be picking things out of their eyes with these talons. So they have that nictitating membrane that keeps their eyes protected when they eat. Some of the really, really fast birds, like falcons, they have that nictitating membrane and it's clear, so they can use it kind of like goggles. When they're flying, they close that and it keeps their eyes protected from wind and things like that.
What food is Atticus getting today?
He is eating chicken nuggets. It's not chicken nuggets, it's chicken cut up into small pieces. It's still very raw with the feathers still on it. We just use it for our training purposes, and so we cut it up into small pieces.
Is he fully grown?
He is, oh yes. Atticus is about...
What is he, 15?
I think he's younger than that. I think he's like 9 or 10, which is about, he's still probably a teenager, but he is very much full grown. These guys are full grown after about 4 months, 3 to 4 months. Great horned owls do stay with their parents a little bit longer than most raptors. They're going to stay with their parents maybe for 6 months, whereas a lot of raptors leave the nest and fledge from their parents when they're about 4 months old.
He's another one that loves enrichments. He's a
Mhm.
shredder.
He is a shredder. He can take a whole book and make it into, like what's in this pile right here. That was formerly known as a book,
That was a book.
and now it's a million pieces. Oh, his next door neighbor
Oh yeah,
is
it's a
showing
broad
you
wing.
another call. A broad-winged hawk. So that's what they sound like. All right. Well, thank you guys very much for joining us and for participating. We hope you learned a little something. Again, you can go to those websites, Cornell, All About Birds. You can look on our website to find pictures and vocalizations of all your local birds and raptors. So keep learning and keep joining us.